read, I don't do math, I don't like school. And now you're there, and you're a high school student. You're like, oh God, I hate school. Because really, you have never had anyone in your family to enforce liking school. And so, thus, you hate school. And possibly you don't do well. And then so that reinforces that cycle. I hate school. I don't do well. I hate school. I don't do well. I don't like my job, right? Take it to another thing. I don't like my job. I don't do well. I don't like my job. I don't do well. I don't like my job. I don't do well. Let's take it to relationships, right? Oh, I don't like this person. They don't like me. I don't like this person. They don't like me. I don't like this person. They don't like me. Again, everything we are, everything, even sometimes what we want to become, is is as a result of what we've experienced, who we've experienced, and who we've experienced it with, and what has been told to us. I was the kid, as growing up, I was known as the fighter. For a lot of people, that'll be hard to believe, but I had four cousins, four boy cousins at that time, and two girl cousins, and another kind of step cousin. And we would go to school. And at the time, I went to Calhoun North in Chicago, but there was a Calhoun North and a Calhoun South. Calhoun South was the older school, and Calhoun North was the newer school, but they were literally adjacent to each other. And my cousins went to Calhoun South for a while. Eventually, they tore Calhoun South down, and they shifted those kids from Calhoun South to Calhoun North. They did some redistricting, and my cousins were at my school. So now, I, the only child, Rosalind, who was going to the school by myself, now have approximately like 7 other people that are now at the school with me. Two of them, my cousin, he was in the same grade with me because I think he was born 1960. I was born 1961, but I had been put up in school because when I was going to school, I didn't go to kindergarten. I was 4 years old and I started off in first grade. So that was why he wasn't behind. I was just ahead. And then I had a cousin, almost like a cousin below me in every grade, all the way down to kindergarten. Well, lo and behold, of course, my cousins were from St. Louis, and kids just picked on them. I cannot tell you what their day was transpired, but every pretty much day, someone was picking on one of my cousins, which meant for me that I had to defend them. And which is so interesting because I just said I had 4 boy cousins, and I was defending them, not them defending me. And I did have one cousin, Dwayne, who wouldn't start something, but he would help me. But then I had 2 other cousins, forgot about them on my dad's side, 3 of them, and so they too, and they were from like the South, and so they kind of stuck out, and people just people just pick on people. And so I was forever defending somebody all the time. I remember one particular day we were coming from school and I was walking at that point. Like I was walking with my cousin Bud, my cousin Virginia, and my cousin Stevie, whose name was Kenneth. And we had approximately 3 city blocks to walk home. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you know anything about a city blocks are serious, right? Because 8 city blocks is a mile. So we got approximately 3 city blocks to walk home. So we made it past the first big block, and that street was Sacramento, and that was where the last like adult would be, a crossing guard. After that, we kids were pretty much on our own, but we had at that point just 2 more blocks. Well, I'm walking with my cousins, Bud, Virginia, and Stevie, my cousin they call Kenneth, and someone says, I hear, we want Kenneth. And it's like a group of them. And I said, well, guys, if one of you going to fight, that's fair. But if you're all going to fight, then I'm going to have to get in his, and it's not going to be pretty. Well, Me, um, Kenneth, and Bud, actually. Bud kind of throwing a little punches. Virginia didn't throw punches. We are doing our thing. We just, boom, boom, boom. That's when fights used to just be scuffles. There's no knives. There's no guns. Just, boom, just fighting. We're just kind of doing a little scrapple. And while we were scrapping, someone had gone to the person that we were fighting to their home to get some help. And they came back with about 5 or 6 people, right? And they were bigger than us. Because I wouldn't have been no more than in 6th grade. So I couldn't have been no more than 11 or 12, 11 or 10. So I'm not, and I'm not big. Okay, let me make sure you hear me on this. My kids saw a picture of me and they said, Mom, you are literally skin covering bones. I was the boniest little thing, just bony. I mean, I look at some little girls now and I go, they're bony, but they're still not as bony as I was. I was bony. I mean, my mother took me to the doctor because I was so bony, right? But I was a little fierce little thing, right? So we are doing our little thing. So I have a sense to look up and I see this person's other family members, some brothers, cousins, some uncles, aunties. They didn't went home and got some reinforcements. So I remember tapping Stevie, and I'm trying to also tell Bud and Virginia, y'all need to get moving, okay? And I'm tapping Kenneth and I say, and I nod to him, look up. And I start backing away. And someone says, man, you better catch her because she can run. Let me be clear. I was already in full speed, already at the next corner, right? Had ran that city block. My grandmother said later when she described it, she said that I hit the corner that she could see from the living room and the back door that she couldn't see that was in the back of the house at the same time. She said, when I came around that corner, I was moving, okay? Came around that corner, hit the corner. One thing I knew, every day my dog Blackie, who was a German Shepherd and a terror in the neighborhood, right? He was a trained attack dog. He was waiting at the door. It was 3:15. My dog was waiting at the door for me as he did every day. I came in, I got him, and I just took him by his collar, went straight out, and he performed as I thought he would. His big bark, his ferocious teeth. We had people running up on cars because I was doing it enough to try to go get my cousins because they couldn't run as fast as I could. So I knew I had left them, in a way, in the lion's den. So I was like, let me go back and get them. Right? So I got my dog. Bud makes it home. He goes and get his dog, Rusty. So now we got Rusty and King, and we running everybody up, every place, right? Well, you remember the thing called the Hatfields and the McCoys? Well, that kind of started that with us, with this group. And I don't know how it just seemed to get bigger. I don't know how. I thought I had a bunch of cousins at the school. I don't know. They had more. And so it got to the point that our grandmother would come to that one place where the last adult was, which was Sacramento, and she would get us and we would count. I had to tell him, I said, Mom, grandma's just gonna have to come get us because we're gonna have to have a fight almost every day now. But that's who I was. And so as I have now grown and I am an adult person, part of that I took with me as a mother, that protective instinct that I will take care of you. As a wife, that was part of my character. As an attorney, that was part of my character. I was a very ferocious attorney. No, I wasn't in there barking or anything, but I really represented my clients. And that stemmed from my experience as a young person, as a child, growing up in Chicago and understanding that I had that in me. I'm not going to say that you have the same story, but I'm sure there's something that you can remember, a quality or characteristic or behavior from your youth that that has carried all the way through. There are people who, will say they can't hold water on their stomach, right? They'll tell everything. And so you may be one of those people, and people, when they talk, they say, oh, you can't tell him or tell her because, they can't hold water on their stomach. And now you've taken that quality. You said, girl, you better not tell me because, I'm going to tell it. I can't hold water on my stomach. Again, what are the experiences? What were you told as a child? And so what I gave you was a kind of, not a good or bad experience, but something that has shaped my life in terms of who I am today. I'm a fighter. I really am. To the end, I will stand up. I will tell you. I've never been a bully, but I've never been bullied. If they tried, it didn't work long because I stood up. And so what has happened for many of us, we may find ourselves in places and doing things with people that we're kind of wondering how and when did this happen? How did I get here? Right? What in my life made it get here? If you are that type of person, and most of us, unfortunately, never even ask the question. We never ask. We never question why we are someplace, why we do certain things. We don't even think about it. We just do. Some of us are just on really remote. We just do it. We're on the road. We get up, we do it. We go up, we do it. We get up, we do it. Someone says this to them, and they do this. You know those people that, you may say, girl, you don't want to say that to them, or you don't want to do that around them because you know how they're going to react. But why do they react that way? Where is it that they learned that behavior? Where was that behavior, those characteristics, that thought pattern? Where was it created? And for most of us, in our childhood. And the reason why I'm really harping on this is because I continuously see people with children doing things that they believe has no effect on the child. People like, oh, they're a baby, oh, they're kids, oh, they don't really know, they're not paying it, no, they don't know any of this. And the truth is, they may not know the specifics, the details, and even understand all that they see. But what they're doing is their brain is recording, just like your brain recorded certain behaviors, ways your mother talked. Some of us even hold our hands or hold our head the way our parents did, or our aunts and uncles or grandparents. And these are behaviors and things about us that we don't even think anything about until sometimes someone else points it out. Oh my God, do you know, you walk just like your daddy, or you walk just like your mama. And that's fine. It's okay that many of the characteristics in who we are have come from someplace. They've come from, our upbringing. But what about, and this is where I'm going to challenge you, what about when those things that we now hold most dear, that we identify with, that we count as, this is me. What about when those things are not good for you? What about you grew up in a home where if, anybody had to talk, or if they were just supposedly having a discussion, and maybe there was a disagreement, that people yelled and they got into fights, and, emotions took over. And now you are a person, an adult person, in business, maybe in the corporate world, maybe you're starting your own business. And when you feel like you're getting ready to have a meeting or a negotiation and someone challenges you in any way, that is where you go. You go to that this becomes, like war. right? This becomes a time for you to be emotional, a time for you to be, loud and express your anger. What happens when you are a young man or a young woman and you've watched domestic violence in your home? You've watched it. You've grown up with it. You've seen it. You've heard it. You've seen the punches. You've heard the hits. And then you've seen the makeup and everything seems okay. And then it happens again. What happens in those instances, and this is through research, research shows that children that grow up in abused homes will become one or the other. Oftentimes, they will either become abused, right? So when women are talking about, I stayed for my children, or even the guy, yes, she was abusive, but I stayed for the kids, you're not adding or helping their future. Because more times than not, children of abused homes will either become abused later or the abusers. Because they've grown up, they're emulating, they're doing what they've seen done over and over again. And now what people say, when people like that are adults, oh girl, she or he always gets his, he always finds somebody that, takes advantage of him, beats him up or whatever. So what I'm saying to you, when we are looking at ourselves, and I really want you to do that, because I really think once we can get a hold of those things that, and identify those things that do not work, right? They don't serve a purpose in terms of getting us closer to doing what God put us on this earth to do. We then can, if we begin to take the time and if we do the work, we can get rid of those things. I grew up in a home where, my mom and dad worked really hard. And consequently, to me, and they got up early. They did not lay around. They didn't lay in bed till 9 o'clock even. I don't ever remember my parents even in the bed on a Saturday till 9. Well, consequently, I'm a person, I get up early. I was listening to my son the other day, and he was telling me one time, he said, Mom, even on Saturdays, I am up. Because I then took that same characteristic of getting up early, taking advantage of the early morning to get things done, to greet your day, to, get to getting about it, with the day. Now my children do it. But what about those things where it's not good, right? I was talking to a person, and she was saying that one of the saddest things she had seen was when a father and son were both in prison at the same time, had not seen each other because the dad had been in prison that long, and they passed each other when they were in the line. One was going one way, another one was going the other way. And now we have not just the father, the son, and then the grandson, or even granddaughter these days. Because everything, who we are, those things that we hold are most dear, are ideas, our behaviors, our experiences that we have learned. And because we've learned them, if you can follow me, because we've learned them, means we can unlearn them or replace them with something else that is more enriching, that is more positive, that has an impact, that helps and not hurts. And I really say this so strongly because, when we look at our prison system, the amount of young men and now even young women is just abysmal. It's appalling. It's something I know for myself. I just wonder, how do we continually allow, and I'm saying we allowing it because we're still as a community not taking care to make sure that our most precious, the gifts from God, our children, are not exposed to craziness, right? You're just not. We need to take a stance. We need to realize that our lives are intertwined with the lives of others. And so if we, and that includes me, try to become the greatest and do the greatest, that which is the most honorable in ourselves, then that will encourage our children to do so as well. I'm a reader. My kids must have saw me read all the time. Not just even in law school, I've always been a reader, and I'm talking about always had books, lots of books. Well, that's one of the characteristics that I really cultivated in them. And even though my oldest doesn't read as much, he's still a reader. My middle son Jay, he's a reader. When my youngest comes home or has a break from his school at Florida Tech, where he's studying aerospace engineering, I'll never forget one day I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm at the library, Mom. I'm trying to see if they have some books." Because he was going online because you can get books delivered. He still has his library card. That's what I'm talking about. That we can change those behaviors. We don't have to keep really running that rat race and calling it, we need to break generational curses. Well, what we need to do is break those thoughts patterns, those attitudes, those actions, those behaviors that do not serve us. They do not serve us. And understand that it is of the utmost importance because who we are, what we do today will affect with AFFECT those who are yet even not born in our families. We have within each of us the ability to choose, the ability to choose a different, a better way to live our lives, to think about what it is we want to do. And it is up to each of us to decide to do so. What I'm basically saying to you and to me, because remember when I do these programs, I'm really not just talking to you. I'm talking to me as well. I'm talking to my children. I'm talking to my friends. I'm talking to you. Even though it's on the radio, we may never ever see each other. I understand that when I stand up, and that's what this radio program is believed to achieve. It's me standing up. It's me saying that I know that there's one person, maybe two, that are listening that will make changes in their lives. And those changes then will resonate, not with just them, but with those around them. Maybe their work environment will become better. Maybe their home environment will become better. The other day, as I said, I'm a professor at 3 universities, and one of the students whom I had in my class sent me pictures of her diplomas. Her diploma, and she sent it, and she said, "I just wanted you to see this." So this is what I must say, which you don't know. If you're a student and you're on my phone, that means that you had some trouble. And so that means I had to put a little extra into you. I had to send you a message at home, right? I couldn't just communicate with you online. I had to to send you one of my home messages that are just as nice, but they give you a little bit more, okay. And I'm not saying everybody responds, but generally, when I send that message, I do get a response. I remember recently one of the higher ups in the school were talking about making sure that we did proactive messaging with our students, and I just was answering back. They were telling us some things to do, and I said yes, I did that. And she answered me back. She says, "I know," and me and others above me know that you do what you're supposed to do. We watch your students. And I hadn't realized until I start seeing comparisons of numbers, in terms of how many people withdraw, how many people, are dismissed, how many people just, fall off the earth and get F's, that I have one of the lowest rates. But that's because I'm standing up. I can't just take a check. Right. I don't think I would have I was going to say maybe I would have a job log, but no, there are people who do. But for me, I know that I can help. Part of my adult employment has been as a academic advisor. And I was always an advocate for my students. I ran the study halls. I was a tutor. That's how I, started. I was a tutor in college. We had at University of Missouri, a lot of the Nigerian men and a few Nigerian women came to our school. And at this time, they had a young man, and I had already graduated and was thinking about entering school again. And so they said, "Oh, well, Rosalind can tutor," only because he was Nigerian. And I had been, at that time, I was married to a Nigerian. So they figured, well, I could understand him. They said, nobody else can understand what he's saying. And the other thing was, too, at that time, for the Nigerians, that they were loud and they could be intimidating. And I wasn't. And so I helped them. And then I became a tutor that worked with the football players. And then I worked with basketball. I worked with their high revenue sports because they needed them to play, right? So I stood up. I'm standing up because and I'm talking directly to you, and you know who you are. You haven't stood up in a long time. You've allowed life, like that boy, push you down, but you're not standing up inside. You have decided, I'm just going to sit here because it's easier. I'm not going to go against the grain. I'm just going to play along, to get along. But inside that you have been given more, abilities and capabilities and responsibilities. But you're allowing yourself to sit down. You're not standing up. You know you can do more. If you possibly would even do one of the things that you have been given, that it would help your family to be better. But this is the thing that's stopping you. And I heard a student say this when I was reading her paper. She said, "I've always been afraid of hearing no." That's what stops us most of the time, is that fear of someone's going to say no. And somehow we have placed the fact that someone will say no, we've placed that so high that we won't negotiate for a better salary, right? We won't negotiate when we should be, for or stand up for ourselves when we should have a promotion. We won't stand up for ourselves. When we're listening to our doctor and the doctor's saying something that maybe doesn't seem quite right, we just go along. But you got to stand up. If we had stood up in our communities long ago, drugs wouldn't have taken hold. If we had stood up, I often wondered, even as a child, I used to think, what would happen if all the adults and people who were for something walked the streets. Oh, now that I think about that, right, that's already been done. It's called the Civil Rights Movement. Yes, it took time. It didn't go, 1, 2, 3. It was an iterative. It was an iterative process that, sometimes people made steps forward. They were jailed, they were beaten, they were killed. But then another group came and took its place. That's what would happen. We would see a radical change in our communities. Those things that we are dealing with, our schools would be better. Our homes would be better because we, you and me, must stand up. We cannot, if you've listened to me, if today's your first time listening, or if you've listened for a while, because I've really been doing this for more than a decade. If you've been listening, you know I am not a proponent of standing and waiting. Standing and waiting with our hand out, waiting for someone to give something. I think that is so preposterous. I think that is just nothing that will benefit us, is just standing in line waiting. We have to march, not just when we think we've been attacked due to a racial prejudice. No, we need to understand the economics about our situation. We need to understand the social construct of how we fit into this society. See, what it is, too, we don't know our history. Because we don't know our history, we don't understand. We got people today who, during that civil rights movement, right, there were many things we were actually going after, right? Many things we were going after, which one of them helped us get a voting act, got anti-discrimination laws passed concerning housing and employment. There wasn't anything for people to put an advertisement in a paper, and that advertisement said Negroes, Jews, need not apply. So, we don't understand. If we understood our history, if we understood, and this is something I was speaking with someone the other day, which I just go, I don't know how we don't know this, but that's because we're waiting, we're asking someone else to tell us our history. If we follow the Civil War that started in 1860, really 1861 officially, when the North was fighting the South was kicking the North's butt. The South was winning, and they were winning for a couple of reasons. One is because they were really passionate about keeping their slaves, because they understood what was being asked of them and what was going to be the consequence if they were not able to continue slavery. They were going to be able to live the way they were living. The economy of the United States of America was built on the backs of slaves. The money that was made by slaves in the cotton fields, in the sugar fields, in the coffee fields, in the tobacco fields, right? We only talk about cotton, but there were many things that created the textile industries of the world. And so these individuals that were fighting from the South understood that. And so they were fighting with it all. They were all in, okay? And they also had help because they were making sure the slaves helped them. The slaves were there as slaves, right? Bringing up the gunpowder, helping them to fix their lines, making sure of bringing them supplies. And so it came to Lincoln's attention with his cabinet that they were losing, and it was bad. And he said, the only way we can win is we got to emancipate the slaves. The only way we can win this war. And so he then uttered the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the slaves. And upon the slaves hearing this, that they were now free men, they then began to do whatever they could to try to get to the north, to get to the north side so that they could fight, because they were also told if they came, they would get wages and they would be treated as men. Now we know from history that they weren't paid the same, that they didn't get, as same quality supplies, but they got them. But this is what history doesn't tell us. And this is, when they're talking about we need to be woke. No, we just need to know the facts. I'm not trying to be woke. I just want to tell you what actually happened. North was losing once the slaves, the men and women, we got to remember, and women came and started fighting on the side of the North. That's when the tide was turned. And America exists today out of that Civil War. Because the persons who wanted to be free, who heard that they were freed by then that President Abraham Lincoln, went on that side and started fighting. And now let's go here. These people are fighting. The South is fighting to keep the slaves. And the slaves, or the men who had made it to that side, were fighting so that they wouldn't be. Do you see what happens when we don't just allow ourselves to say, okay? Do you see what happens when you know that when Harriet Tubman came, that you was going to be the one? In fact, you had your stuff ready when she came in the door. You said, oh, no, I'm ready to roll. And not one of those people, no, I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to see how this going to play out. Master, not so bad. Beat me every once in a while. Take advantage of me. But it's not so bad because that freedom thing I don't know about because I don't know. Someone said, and I do believe this to be true, in order for us to move, you have to be so sick and tired of being so sick and tired. Like Fannie Lou Hamer said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that woman, that woman who lost her job, who was kicked off of the plantation, the sharecropper, where she had been for all of her life because she went to try to vote, stood up. What about you? I was listening again to Les Brown, and he was saying that we have to really just have had enough. And I've had enough long ago. I'm going to tell you. I am not. Now, that's something I am not. I am not a person of great patience. And that is something that they said about me when I was younger. And I've worked on it to be better. Okay, so I've made some strides in that place and not just have accepted that I can be impatient. So I've learned to be more patient. But I've had enough. I've had enough of seeing our young men and young women go to school without the intent to learn, without the intent to take advantage of the opportunity, because guess what? The parents haven't made it clear that that's what that is. That it's an opportunity, that they haven't connected the dots from them as a child to them as an adult to make sure that they understand that you're just not going to school. It's just not a futile exercise. No, this will determine how you do, what you learn, will determine your future, will determine if your lights will be on later, will determine if you're able, right, to not just be a day laborer, but can be in management. It will determine that. See, we got to connect. We got to stop this just looking at what they tell us to look at, right? What other people are telling us are our issues. We got to stop saying that we're disadvantaged, because we're not. Or at risk, because we're not. We have every opportunity, every chance that anyone else has. We have to believe that. We have to understand that. And we have to stop telling the tales of just woe without telling the tales of success. See, somebody needs to tell someone that our country is the country it is, the greatest country in this world, was saved by the slave fighting. Someone needs to tell somebody. Someone needs to tell someone that the economic power that the world enjoyed was due to slavery, that was built on their backs. We need to make sure we understand and stop always just telling and talking about, oh, the man got me down. They just got this thing and I just can't get out of it and it's just how it is. No, we do not have to accept how it is. We do not. But if we stand up, make our voices heard, but it starts with each of us standing up inside of ourselves, being the person that we know we can be, being that person, doing those things that we know we are to do. We have to stand up, because when we stand up, then our children can stand up, our spouses can stand up, those in our community can stand up, because they will see you. Right? They may not say anything to you, but you got to understand they see you. They know who you are. They know who you are and what you are bringing to the table. And one of the reasons what we haven't understood yet is that the powers that be, yes, they want us to keep sitting down. They want us to only respond for certain things. And guess what? That's what we do. And I'm not talking about you parents who go to school and your children are bad as you know what, and you go up there and cuss the teacher out. That's not standing up. That's showing your ignorance and that you're an idiot. And I'm going to say that. That's not how you handle that. One of the things that we must understand is that we are responsible for ourselves and our families and our communities. Don't walk down the street and see trash and don't pick it up. Don't just throw trash down, right? Take the time. Don't sit outside your house when the grass needs to be mowed and pieces of it are falling down and we just sit there, we rocking on the porch or whatever. No. We got to say, you know what? This is what we got. This is because property, people, I don't know why we haven't got this yet, but property, the ownership of property, is what wealth also is built upon in this country. And what we can leave, what we can do, it makes a difference. That's another way for us to stand up. Take care of our property, own property, have businesses in our community that employ people. And look at industries, right? There's a big push for solar right now. There's a big pushes in the tech fields. We can have those companies. There's no reason why we can't have an Apple or a Google or an Amazon and run it well and employ people and pay them, salaries. But we have to stand up in order to do so. There's no reason we can't have our own black banks. Think about all the money that is made, that we make, and where it's going. It's not coming into our communities. No, because we're busy going to other people's businesses and spending our monies there. We got to stand up. We got to stand up economically. We got to stand up academically. Right? We can't allow ourselves to just accept that our kids and ourselves, right? Because there are those of you who know you need to go back to school. But the thought of it is like, I don't know. It's kind of rough. But what I'm saying to you is stand up. Stand up today. Stand up right now. Don't talk about, the new year's coming, 2023 is coming, and I'm going to do this then. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to look. No. Stand up right now. And when you stand up right now, you'll be able to stand tomorrow. No matter what happened in the past, you'll be able to stand. Your children will be able to stand with their heads high, their shoulders squared, their chest out. They'll be able to stand. Our communities will be able to stand. And those people who have gone on before us, the Father Penders, will not have lived in vain. They will not have lived here and just worked as hard as they did to see us just be. So again, stand up. Stand up during this holiday season even to make a difference. Stand up. Standing up really is something we need to be focusing on at any time, always. So my question to you, and I'm going to leave you with this. Are you standing? Hey, thank you for listening to today's program. I hope that you found the information that was shared today helpful to you. If you are interested in sponsorship, or if you have comments, or if you just have a suggestion for future programming, please, you can call me at 407-451-4179 or email me at RosalindDunlap@Yahoo, or hit me up on my Facebook account at Rosalind Gentry. Hey, I look forward to hearing from you, and join me again next week for another segment of Believe to Achieve.
This is WOKV 1680 AM Winter Garden and W264DV 100.7 FM Kissimmee, the heart and soul of Central Florida.
Silver Gala Inc. presents this year's Winter Gala at the Sheraton Orlando North Hotel, located at 600 North Lake Destiny Road, Maitland, Florida. This year's theme is leather and lace, a little bit naughty and a little bit nice. Food, fun, and festivities begins at 7 p.m. To purchase your tickets, go to www.eventbrite.com for SGI Winter Gala 2022.
Welcome to the Marvin Sapp Show. You already know it's gonna be a good time on the Marvin Sapp Show. Music for your soul, wisdom for your life. You'll be better, wiser, stronger. You can hold on a little while longer when you listen to the Marvin Sapp Show. Marvin Sapp. Turn up the radio. Marvin Sapp on your radio.
Grace and peace, family. Grace and peace. This is Bishop himself, and you listen to Marvin Sapp Radio Show, giving you guys the best in old school, new school, all school, trying to keep this thing churchy and funky all at the same time. And I want to welcome you to the Father's Day edition, beloved. Today, we are celebrating fathers. We're celebrating with dads, with the very best in gospel music that this nation has to offer. Also, we got some very special guests that's going to be with us today. One of our special guests is none other than the man of God himself, Kirk Franklin, and then my son, Marvin Sapp II, better known as Jamar.
Progressive Snapshot can save you money based on how you drive and how much you drive. So the safer you drive, the more money you could save. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were yelling at another car while driving, let me say it again. You need to calm down. Yelling is just making everyone as stressed out as you are and letting them all know that you definitely aren't trying to save with Progressive Snapshot. And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't yelling at another car, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
Silver Gala Inc. presents this year's Winter Gala at the Sheraton Orlando North Hotel, located at 600 North Lake Destiny Road, Maitland, Florida. This year's theme is leather and lace, a little bit naughty and a little bit nice. Food, fun, and festivities begins at 7 p.m. To purchase your tickets, go to www.eventbrite.com for SGI Winter Gala 2022.
Hezekiah Walker, calm down. we got that brand new sound.
It's your boy Hezekiah Walker, and I want you to join me this weekend as I count down 20 of the most popular songs in gospel. I'll also be giving you some power music with my power picks of the week and put the spotlight on one of your favorite artists. So don't miss it, the Hezekiah Walker Countdown.
The Hezekiah Walker Countdown every Sunday from 12 to 2 right here on Inspiration 1680 WOKB, your 3-time Stellar Award-winning station.